Hello again. I'm looking at a new game by Magnus. This game is 1 year later, 2003. It's played in Stockholm and it's played 2003 06-14. And he's playing against the Swedish player Dennis Rylander, who I believe he moved to USA. So if you're from USA, you might have seen him playing in American chess tournaments. So Magnus plays very, very strongly and interesting here in this game. Magnus starts with d4. He's white, and black goes for the Leningrad variation here, which was and still is a popular opening at the club level, like at the at this it's not a popular variation at the Grandmaster level, but it's popular, very popular below that. Black gets like it's like a King's Indian, but black has already played f5. So let's see how Magnus plays against that setup. So I think this should be the main line here. The computer says that c6 is best, but apparently queen e8 is the most popular move if you look at the database here. But knight c6 is also, it's played 90% of the time, so it's also a fine move. The disadvantage, of course, is that Magnus can now play d5 and take here. And he continues with e4. That makes some sense, otherwise black would probably play e4. And in typical fashion, black tries to maybe sacrifice a pawn to get some play here. It's a typical way to play in this opening. He plays f4 here. And the idea is that if in this position, if white would take on f4 with the bishop, then you can see the computer says that black maybe can take on e4, but it's a more logical probably to maybe play like this, and then if he moves it, maybe try to plant a strong knight here on f4, and maybe if black later managed to do something like e5, bishop e5, queen d6 or something, he has a bit of a grip on the dark squares here. So that's the black's general idea with this f4 sacrifice here. It's a common way to play in this opening. And Magnus, he obviously knows that, of course, and he, instead of taking back the pawn, he's playing interestingly here. He cuts off black's position in two by playing so here in this position, another way for black to play would be to play like this. This is also a way to play, and it wouldn't allow maybe it wouldn't allow the way white plays, but the computer still likes this for white. So let's see. So Magnus played e5 here, and the idea is to play e6 and like cut off the black position in two halves. The bishop on c6 can't get out really. But the computer still thinks this is quite an even game, and it looks like it has been played by strong players, as you can see here on the right here. So black did knight e5. Makes some sense to play like that, because black would like to play f3 here and to weaken white's kingside here. And here it looks like a computer says that white Magnus makes a mistake here by playing c5. It would have been better, according to the computer, to play rook e1, and I guess it's because I'm not really sure, but I guess if black would play f3, I guess it's because you can then play like bishop f1 and put the bishop on a little bit more safe safe square. But he did this one, and now after f3 you obviously has to go to h3 because the bishop can never get out and if it goes to h1, so it has to go to h3. And here it says that black made a mistake with g5 here. As you can see, the computer think it would have been better to play b6 here, and the idea would be to get out his worst piece, this bishop on c8. It could now go to a6. If white had played rook e1 and had his bishop on f1, then this variation to develop the bishop on h6 would not have been so strong for white. But it's kind of understandable that the players didn't think that far, because it's quite it's not an obvious thing to see, basically. So let's see how the game continued. Black played g5, which makes some sense. If white would take that, bishop takes g5, obviously black would like to play queen e8 like this, queen e8, and then put it out here on these squares. The bishop and g5 would be under attack, and also the bishop and h3, and black would have some chances to get an attack here. So instead white played king h1, which is like that was way too much here. Let's go back. I'm going with the arrows here, which is not like an obvious thing here, because as you can see now, if black would play g4 here, then the bishop on h3 is trapped, of course. But when black takes the bishop here with a pawn, white's rook can come to g1, and white would be attacking black instead on the open g file. So I think that this was a clever move here, king h1. And here Magnus, according to the computer, plays the best move here, queen d4, centralizing the queen. It's no problem that it's like it looks very dangerous to go here, because bishop g7, if the knight would move, then the queen would get under attack. But it's not there is no good way to move the knight, at least right now. In the game, black took on h3, and that was an inaccuracy. According to the computer, the best would be bishop takes e6, and the reason for that is, of course, that white's queen is pinned, so he cannot take back. Then the game, according to the computer, could have followed like this: take, so, and in this position apparently white can take on g4. Very tactical game here. The point is, if bishop takes g4, then rook g1, and he again gets this g file that I was talking about earlier, and he will win back the bishop with some attack. So it's complicated. The computer thinks it's a little bit better for white, but it's a complicated game. Looks also like black can put in this move bishop g7 here to attack the queen, but I won't go in much more here. But I noticed that the computer thinks it would have been better for black to play bishop takes e6. It was also the bad bishop that black cannot get out, so it makes a lot of sense to go here. Now in this position, Magnus found what I think is like an excellent move. Here it definitely looks like it's logical for white to play rook g1, but that is not so good according to the computer, because black has the possibility to go back here and cover the rook on the g file, and now white has to move the queen here, and it's yeah, apparently the computer likes this for black apparently after c6 and undermining the center, but I still feels like white has some attacking chances here for the piece, but he has sacrificed a piece of course, and black also has some dangerous pawn here on h3 and f3. So, but Magnus finds a much better move, which he probably has seen quite a far in advance, because yeah, it's the only move here according to computer to keep the advantage, and that is to play bishop h6, an amazing move. If the point is obviously like if black would move the knight, then queen takes g7 is mate, and white threatens rook g1 now, and then black can't play knight g6 because queen takes g7 is mate. So looks like the computer thinks maybe rook bishop h8 and bishop f6 also was alternatives here. The idea is obviously if rook g1, then knight g6 is coming, but let's see what it looks like. It looks more logical to take that bishop to me, so that's what black also did, and then white is taking the knight on e5, and now rook g1 is obviously a big threat, so black has to cover that with rook here, and white is checking. As you can see, if bishop g7, then knight e4 is strong. It wins at least the exchange on f6 here. So it's more logical to play rook g6 here, and then Magnus plays the best move, queen h5 here. If black would have played queen f8, the computer says he should take on g6, take on g6, and another rook to g1 to try to put in that rook. Yeah, let's look at that line. And it's still a bit complicated, but the computer says that white is winning here. One reason for that is that, as I've said, this bishop and rook is still too cut off. Apparently, black wants to sacrifice it here, used to get out, sacrifice the bishop just for a pawn here. So it shows the dominant position of the white pawns on d5 and d6 also. But instead, black tried king g7, and after takes, and a new rook to g1, and now of course black has to cover that with queen e8, knight e4 bringing the last piece into play. Apparently, according to the computer, this was a mistake. The computer thinks it would have been better to go to b5 here. Black can't take, of course, because he has to defend g6, and then he threatens the fork, which apparently is not so easy to defend here. It's impossible to defend it basically. So, but also going here looks fine. Now black tries to open the center here, and Magnus did a check, and he played knight g5, obviously maybe trying to do knight f6 here, knight f7 here. Black took that one, white took back, and here it says that yeah, only way the best move would have been bishop e6, but even this apparently is winning for white. But black went here, and now apparently queen e5 was also winning, but rook g4, And now after this one, white has a forced mate here. And here Magnus is always very concrete and accurate in his calculations. So instead of taking back on e6, he's doing the accurate rook h4 here. And yeah, this is mate 4. So that's a nice, very nice, nice game by Magnus against a strong player. So see you next